Okay, here we are. This is Pesach Sherbo coming to you live from Sfat, Israel. We're on YouTube. Soon we're going to be on Facebook in just a minute. And we thank you so much for joining us tonight. It is the the 3rd of February where you are, and it is the 4th where I am here, 3 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock USA time, East Coast, USA. And if any of you feel like sharing around this to different places, we just do it. In a minute, it's going to be up on my Facebook page and on B'nai Noach Connection with Israel and Torah for the Nations Facebook page. If you can share it around, we'd certainly appreciate it. Put it wherever you want. There we go. Let me do it. Yes, I'll put it on the Torah for the Nations. And there we go. All right. And I see it's been shared over to B'nai Noach Connection with Israel. Thank you for being with us today. And we appreciate it whenever you guys are with us. We're here tonight with, let me get things going here. Let me get on camera. I always forget that. All right. Coming up on camera and a little bit of a gallery view here. We got the Tennesseans here, Terry and Scotty, co-hosts, and we got Hans, Gloria, and James. Good to see you guys. Thanks for being with us tonight. And as we're going through, if you have any questions or comments, you can put them in the Facebook page or you can put them in the YouTube. If you click on the picture, that'll open up YouTube for you. You can click it there. Come on into the Zoom room. We'd be more than happy. There's Amoella. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. So glad to have you. And I'm glad you guys are here with us tonight. I'm going to start off by saying I'm going to take a couple of weeks off, and Terry and Scotty are going to co-host the Wednesday night show. And I'm going to be Sunday night. There'll be no broadcasts for the next couple of weeks. And I just need to take a little bit of recuperation time and downtime and a little bit of research and reading time, too. So I can dig into some things I really want to dig into. So I appreciate your understanding on that. And tonight, let's see what's happening here in Israel. They voted to close down. Israel is hermetically sealed for 2 weeks. Nobody in or out. I guess you can go out if you can find an airplane to get on. The airport's effectively closed. You can get in on one flight that comes in from Cyprus. If you got to fly to Cyprus from wherever you are in the world, and then get permission to go on that flight to come here, and you have to have all kinds of documentation that you don't have corona or you've had it or you've been vaccinated and all kinds of stuff. Getting a little complicated. Even with all the lockdowns we've had here, so much of the population as yet has not been fully vaccinated. So we're still trying to get that done. But hello, Devorah. Good to see you. And I guess she's in here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Devorah, how you doing? I've had my vaccination. I've had both of them. I'm about 3 weeks past the second dose, and I'm feeling fine and doing good. 4 of my close friends right now are all down in one way or another, but they didn't get vaccinated. Unfortunately, one is in the hospital, and 2 are at home suffering from fevers and weakness. And one other one, he's okay. He's not feeling as bad. We also had 4 I I guess some of the higher up rabbis here, older people, died in the past week, including Rabbi Avram Twersky, if anybody knows who he is. He's a great teacher, and he has done a lot of work with addiction. If you look him up on the internet, he's got great books. He's a great teacher. He was, may his memory be blessed. And we're doing tonight's broadcast to the quick healing of Yaakov and Mo and Yehuda, three of my friends. And we're doing it in memory of the four rabbis that passed away in the last week. And may God give them an aliyah, we call it, those who passed away. May they come before him and he bless them, their souls. This is a typical way that we start or should start teaching, studying, or lessons, whatever, is remembering our loved ones who have passed away and just holding their name up before God. And also holding up people for a full, complete healing from whatever's going on. Israel National News it reported many people dying not long after the vaccine. Well, here it's not, in percentage-wise, to those that are getting the vaccine and those who are dying or getting really ill from the vaccine is as low as or below the rate when people get flu shots every year. The reason it makes news is because it's a new vaccine and it's something scary. People are afraid of what's going on. So it's not the most comfortable thing that's going on in the world today. It's scaring a lot of people. It's freaking out a lot of people. It's affecting people's minds as much as it's affecting their bodies. Those that aren't sick, it affects their minds, especially when it comes to people that have lost their jobs. They can't pay their mortgages. They can't make their other payments. And it's very depressing for people. It really, really, a lot of people have not been through something like this in their life with this kind of effect mentally. I mean, look, we all get fired from a job. We lose our job. We go through times when money's tight. Lots of times we make it tight ourselves by the way we spend it. This is a worldwide phenomena happening all at one time. And there's a reason for it. We're not quite sure what the reason is, but there's definitely a reason for it. And I tell you that what we're looking at in the Torah portions we're reading now, and this week we're reading Jethro, it almost lines up with what's going on in the Torah portion. You know, when we came out of Egypt and we're going through everything and we get up to the Sinai desert and we're getting ready to meet God, he addresses Israel as one unit, one thing, it's not like, hey, all you Israelis, all you sons of Jacob. He tells Moses, bring Israel to me as one. We're all part of one. Well, all humanity is part of one. And this is like a call to all humanity. And what happened back on Mount Sinai, though, was a little different, because what happened on Mount Sinai was the coming together of the spiritual and the physical world. Until that time, sure, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob knew God, but it wasn't like a spiritual connection like we have today. Until we hit Mount Sinai, there was no strong spiritual connection. We did things because, okay, you told us to do it, we'll do it. Without the connection of it being a mitzvah, without the connection of it being affecting our world. And that's it. Sure, it made our world nicer and a better place to live, and made our relationships with each other better. But there wasn't that breakthrough, the connection with God that there is today through the spiritual. And think about it. Why did God even have to speak to us at Mount Sinai? It says that they actually saw his words. When he spoke, he didn't have to. The whole world was shaking in their boots because the whole world felt the thunder and lightning and everything that was happening on Mount Sinai. They knew something was happening, and they were shaking in fear. They were shaking. There was a God powerful enough to do this. They were shaking because they didn't know what was going to happen. And they were starting to learn that this God was establishing a nation called Israel, a people called Israel, and he was their God. Now, none of the other gods that existed ever did anything like this God did. They didn't shake the earth. They didn't rumble and thunder and lightning from heaven. They didn't come down and make the connection. Their gods can't do that. They're made of wood and paper and whatever else they make them from, and they can't do nothing. Why people use them as gods, I don't know, but that's a different story. So imagine the earth trembling in fear over this. Think about it. All the kings of the world, all the people of the world, knowing that something's happening, they're frightened, they're panicking, they're scared, they don't know what's going on. And here we are standing in front of the mountain, and God is talking to us. About 3 million people. Not in a cave, not in a whisper, not in some guy's flash of light that he saw in front of his eyes, but in front of 3 million people. And he says, here I am. Anochi, Adonai Elohecha. I am the Lord your God. Period. And he sure proved it with his power then. And he told people, don't come up on the mountain, you'll die. Even your cattle, if it comes up on the mountain, they'll die. Why? Because God was throwing lightning at them? No, the power was too much to handle. The power that was coming into the earth, the connection that was being made. Like, wow. Well, I look at the COVID-19 and I say to myself, man, this is like God speaking from Mount Sinai. And you know what? So many people on earth today don't believe in a God or believe in other weird stuff. That maybe God's saying, maybe this will wake everybody up. We're getting time for the Messiah to come. There's a red line in the sand. People are going to have to come around and know who I am. And they're not even paying attention. They're not even thinking about me. I'm going to wake them up. Well, he said there wouldn't be another flood, but gosh darn it, this sure feels like one. Look at all the death reports we're getting. Look at everything that's happening. Look at the contagion rate. Look at the things that are changing. In other words, the biological changes, the mutations that are happening in it. Everybody's getting it. The whole world. It's like when it started raining back in Noah's time, everybody got wet. So the whole world is experiencing just like it was in the time of the flood. Now, Hashem said he would never destroy the world by flood anymore. Well, the water flood is not upon us, but the COVID flood is. And people, what do? They're arguing about conspiracy theories with the vaccine. They're not even worried about why do we have it? Why was it sent to us? Why is the whole world, every country in the world being covered by it like it was a flood? Nobody cares about that. We're going to argue, man, I ain't taking that vaccine. Nobody's going to make me do something I don't want to do. Our egos are bound up in this. And when people's egos are so strong that they won't listen when God's trying to talk, they're just losers. What do they got to lose by saying, okay, God, I understand there's something going on here. What do we have to do to fix it? But people don't know how to be humble. They don't know how to get rid of their egos. They don't know how to get rid of the other side. They don't know how to get rid of their animal instinct. They don't know how to connect the godly part of them to the animal part of them. Because we're animals, and people don't like it when I say that, but that's what we are. We're mammals. We have something that four-legged animals, or even some of the two-legged animals out there, the gorillas and all them stuff, they don't have. We have the connection to God in us that is open. We're the ones that have to take action. We're the ones that have to tell ourselves, I might think this, but you know what? Maybe I just got to leave it open what I'm thinking right now. Maybe I have to climb down off the horse of conspiracy theories, and who hates who the most, and who can yell hate the loudest and say it's not hate. Maybe there's something God wants out of this. Just maybe. But if you can't humble yourself enough to understand that there is absolutely your opinion, my opinion means zero. Zero. It doesn't mean a thing. I can think what I want. It doesn't mean a darn thing to the working of the world. But boy, each one of us like to think it does. Well, I think this, and this is blah, 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 and if you wear a different color, you're wrong. Or if you think this, you're wrong. Who are we to judge each other? We have a judge, Hashem, Elohim, the one God, the creator of everybody and everything. And I'm here to tell you, just because we think something different doesn't change the facts. If we can't open our eyes and look and see the difference, we're blind. We're just stumbling around in the darkness like the Egyptians did. And like some of the children of Jacob did when they didn't leave Egypt. Oh man, I really like being an Egyptian. I like this freedom. I like eating whatever I want. I like this. I like that. I. It's all about I. Years ago, I saw this lady, a preacher. I think her name was Joyce Myers. And I decided to watch a couple of programs. And she did this little skit or this little thing across the stage. And I think about it all the time. They're like a little robot. She goes back and forth across the stage saying, what about me? What about me? What about me? What about me? And she says, this is what everybody's stuck in. Of course, she was stuck in it too. But that's a truthful statement. Everybody's thinking, what about them? What's going to make me happy? What makes me feel good? My opinion is what I want. And yeah, everybody's trying to kill me and put markers in my skin and track me all over the world and guess what? Since the day you turned on a cell phone, and some of you have had it your whole life's on the cell phone. Wherever you go, whatever you do, it's all right here. And everybody knows it and has access to it. Facebook, Google, IBM, CBM, I don't care, the governments, everybody. But no, you're not going to give me no vaccine that's going to have a chip in it. You're not going to chip me. Wait a minute, let me put my chip in my pocket here so I can take it when I leave in case somebody calls me. Come on. People are afraid of the wrong things. They're afraid of the wrong things. Do you know the key? The key is the same key it was after the flood. The same key it was after Sodom and Gomorrah. The same key it was when David was king and Solomon. kindness to one another. Not taking our opinion and thinking everybody has to believe that way, and humbling ourselves to understand that just because we think it doesn't make it right or doesn't make it the thing that is the thing. We have to do the thing with God. That's what we have to do. And we have to do the thing that God wants us to do. He sends his messages all the time. And I think this might be one of the times that he wants us to listen up. One of the times. He wants us to listen up. But people don't want to do it. They just don't want to do it. Don't know why. I mean, there was a time in my life I didn't listen to anybody either. There was a time in my life, I just noticed, by the way, excuse me, I for some reason we can't type in the YouTube today. It says error. I noticed that we're using the Noahide World Center one, so maybe they've got it turned off or something. So the best thing to do would be to get a Facebook page, or just come on into Zoom room and be with us. James says she's popular among my longtime women friends and family. Yes. She is a pretty popular one. But see, just to digress a minute, and this is a general comment about people like her, and there's other preachers out there. These people say they're doing so much good for everybody, but they live in multi-million-dollar homes. They drive cars that cost as much as houses. I mean, I just don't understand these people. Why do I not understand it? Because I never see any rabbis doing that stuff. Their rabbis live in regular homes with regular cars and don't try to make themselves rich off of helping other people. So I don't know. I'm sorry. I just had to say that. Anyway, I agree, but what about those who die from this vaccine? Lots of them are. All right, let's take that first sentence. You know why we think lots of them are? Because they're publicizing it. When the statistics wash out for the flu season and everything else, the percentage of people that get it, that die from it, will be about the same. The numbers are big because the people infected are bigger and the people getting vaccinations are bigger. Yes, but the percentage of all the people will be about the same. Well, even though things are way up here in Israel, we're finding out that the percentage of those that are getting it and that are dying is about between 1.0 and 0.9%, about exactly what happens in a flu season. But during a flu season, I've been getting the flu shot for 16 years. I don't know about other people. So I've taken myself out of that cycle of the flu shot. People are rightly upset. They don't want to be guinea pigs. They're so afraid of this vaccine. Okay, so don't take it. Don't tell other people not to take it. A lot of people are living from it. But we always forget one thing, that we all have that appointment. And you can't bring it any faster and you can't bring it any later. When your time for that appointment comes to go on to the next level of life, that's there from the day you're born. We just don't know when it is. So if that's your day, God works this way. 3 guys are walking down the street, talking to each other. All of a sudden, one falls over dead. They look down. got blood coming out of the side, coming out of his chest. They find out it was a bullet shot, a bullet that killed him. 3 guys just walking down the street, and one of them falls over dead. When the police did their investigation, they find out that somebody fired at somebody half a block away. The bullet ricocheted and hit that guy, and he died. Now, isn't that weird? And the guy that pulled the trigger was shooting at somebody else and killed this guy half a block away on a ricochet. That guy that fell down on the ground, if it hadn't have been the bullet, it would have been something else. It was the appointed time. I know we don't like it. I know that a lot of us live in fear of that appointed time. But from the time we're born, God knows the minute we're born and the minute we're not, we're supposed to go be with him. We just don't have it. So I agree with, I think we have to all weigh this vaccine, who can and who cannot take it. Yes. We agree here in Israel too. People that are certain levels of certain conditions, they will not give the vaccine to. If you have extreme pulmonary problems, very high blood pressure, with certain levels of diabetes, they will not give the vaccine to, and they tell the people, go home, shut your door, and get everything delivered. Just stay home until this gets over with. And that's, yeah. And anybody now in Israel that wants to take it can. They've just taken all the age limits off. We got about 70% of the people that are over 60 vaccinated, so they just opened it up to everybody now. It was the high age groups that were having the most problem. You know what? We're finding out here in Israel now, it's the younger people that are having a problem now, in their 20s, in their teens, through one of these mutations that came through. Well, yeah, that's true. There was an increase in, and I opened up with that about how it's affecting people and the depression and some people can't handle it. Yes, and there are. I don't know if the number of suicides have increased, but it's just they've changed reason, I guess, for suicide. They used to say it was one reason, the other say it's because of the COVID stuff. Andrew says, I know those who can't take it because of meds. Yeah, that's true. And we all have it. We all have the same thing. And we have it here too. And yes, other pathologies, depression, suicide, non-medical stuff, yes, that are mental, that are causing people problems. Absolutely. Japan recently had more suicides than COVID-19 deaths. You know, James, funny you mentioned that. Not funny, but whenever I think of suicide, they're the first people to come to mind. The Japanese. You always see in movies and stuff, and everybody, Harry-Carry, they call it, or something like that, because they're embarrassed or save face or depressed. But yes, that's true. Now, also something else that's happening is addictions are on the rise. Alcohol, drugs. Why? Well, I'm going to go put a buzz on. I don't have to think about this all day long. Yeah. So it's people are sitting around the homes, nothing to do, watching the I used to call it the fool tube, watching TV or watching all the stuff on YouTube and every place else, frying their heads, trying to forget what's going on outside the house. And there are those that are addicted to being outside the house, sports, running, going to gyms and things like that can't do it anymore right now. And it puts, they get depressed when they don't do that, because that is also an addiction, by the way. Running is an addiction. Over-exercising is an addiction. Things like that. Whenever you overdo anything, it becomes an addiction. It becomes something you can't live without. And it can be psychological, it can be physical, or it can be chemically assisted. So it doesn't make any difference what it is. They're addictions. But let's go back to what's happening on Mount Sinai. Here's Jethro, a whole Torah portion named after who? A goy. A guy who was a priest of Midian. Right in the middle of everything we're learning about being in Israel, being a nation, here comes Jethro. Reminds me of Along Came Jones. Was that a song one time? Then what happens here? Jethro, the guy that had been priest to every single god on that man made on the planet, comes and says, wow, what kind of God you got? Wow, he's more powerful than anything I have seen. He is the God of all gods. Thanks to him, and him offering a sacrifice, and him thanking God for bringing the Israelites out of Egypt, they could continue to meet with God. Did you know that? Nobody gave a sacrifice or thanked God, praised God, gave him credit yet until Jethro did it. He also did something that we're all, you can call it a blessing or a curse, I don't know. Bureaucracy. You see, he'd been in government before, and Moses never had. And he sat beside Moses the whole day, watching people standing in line from morning till night, waiting to talk to Moses for him to make decisions about things they needed decisions made about, getting his opinion. And Jethro says, what are you doing? These people suffered all day long. You got them in line. You suffered. You can't sleep. You can't eat. You can't drink. You can't do nothing. You're taking care of people. He says, split them up. Have captains of 10s and captains of 50s and captains of 100s and captains of 1000s and captains of 10,000s. And people have to start with their captains of 10 and go to him with a question. And if he doesn't know the question, and he, by the way, they weren't allowed to give opinion, they had to give what was in line with what they were supposed to do. Just like one day the Noahites will have those captains for them, the judges in the courts, just like the Israelites have today. Here in Sfat, anytime somebody needs some help or they want to be released from a vow or something like that, they get 3 rabbis together. They don't have to be appointed judges. You get 3 rabbis together, and they go in front of them and they talk to them. And they get opinions and they do that. But every single captain along the way, guess what? They were elected. That's where the very first steps of democracy came in. The captains of 10 were elected. It wasn't somebody said, well, I'm going to be a captain. I'm going to start my own home group, man. I'm going to just, and what I say goes. It wasn't anything like that. They were elected. And if it had to go all the way up to the Supreme Court, all the way up to Moses, it got there. Or maybe it had to go to Aaron, the high priest, because it was a different matter. But it got there if it had to go there. It took a little time. But if somebody really didn't know the answer, that's the only way to do it. And what would happen is, if a questioner came and the captains of 10s he didn't know, he said, come on, you and I are going to go to captains of 50s. You go to the captain of the 50s, he can't do anything. The 3 of them then went up to the captains of the hundreds or thousands, or whatever the next level was. So everybody knew when they came back down the line and got back to where they were going, everybody knew what the decision was. And everybody did the same thing in keeping the decision. Somebody somewhere down the line didn't say, well, I don't agree with that opinion, so no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do what I think is right. Maybe some did, but they sure didn't stay in the group very long. There's no unity when people do that. I cannot put my opinion as something over somebody else. I can only, and that's why the chain of custody, the chain that started with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, went to Mount Sinai, came off of Mount Sinai with everything written down, and until today, the chain is so important. And if you think you can break a chain like that, or you're smarter than the people in the chain, or you can change things because you think you got a better idea, you are so sadly mistaken. Now, you can take the same thing they said and explain it better maybe to somebody, but you can't change it. The Word of God doesn't change, and we're not allowed to change it. We're allowed to pass on the information. So from the time that we left Mount Sinai until 2,000 years ago, plus or minus, we had the written that was handed by God to Moses or dictated to Moses. And then we had, started by Yehuda HaNasi, Judah the Prince. He started writing it down because the great exile was starting all across the world. And so everybody would have the same information across the world. Wherever they went, they wouldn't have quick access to Jerusalem and to the Sanhedrin because they weren't there. We were in exile. And so the word was written down, and it was written down. And when it became written down, our sages started reading it and rereading it and rereading it and saying, okay, let's take a look at this situation. How does this situation apply? How does that situation apply? And something very interesting happens in Torah. You have a verse that says one thing, and then you have a verse that says something apparently opposite. What do? You don't know what to do until a third verse comes along that shows the connection between those two verses. You read here one thing, and you read here something else, and you say, wait a minute, if I just look at it, this is saying it's opposite than this is. And then later, you get a verse in the Torah that says, well, this is the way things work, and it connects the two together. But you never can make, and I can't, and nobody can, except through the sages and all the chain of the fathers. Oh boy, I think I got a coffee pot burned up in the kitchen. I don't see my coffee here, and I put water on to boil, and I still the gas is under it. Okay. Let me just take a quick trip over the stove and turn the fire off. Be right back. Hang on.
If we would have saw flames in the background, we would have just known he was burning up over there.
Well, that's like melting my coffee pot. Yeah. Well, yeah, I got James put in. We'll certainly miss Rabbi Pesach for the next couple of weeks. I really need to take a couple of weeks off. And I'm going to do it. And I appreciate you saying that, James. But Scotty and Terry are excellent teachers, and they're certified by Nohad World Center. So they'll be here. And then I'm not going to do the Sunday night broadcast at all. And the Wednesday night broadcast will be handled by Scotty and Terry for at least 2 weeks. And anyway, I may drop in. I don't know. But I got to take a little time off. Anyway, wow, the coffee pot. I'm going to have to go buy a new coffee pot. It's not a coffee pot. It's a finjan. You can Google it. It's a little pot with a handle on it, and you heat up enough coffee for about enough water to make 1 cup of coffee, or you can cook the coffee in it. It's like cowboy coffee. It's a little thing for cowboy coffee that we use here in Israel, and we call it Turkish coffee. It's probably Turkish coffee before it was cowboy coffee. Look, I've been talking for at least 15 years about something that I keep bringing up, and I can't seem to. I haven't figured out how to explain it yet so that people catch it the first time I say it. Your ego is bad. Your ego keeps you from connecting with God. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be some little, oh yeah, no, I don't have any ego person. But when you decide that your opinion means more than anybody else's, and when you decide that your opinion, let's take you're in a business partnership, and you got a partner that just goes out and does something without asking you or talking to you, and just makes a unilateral decision. This is the way it's going to be. That's what you call ego. You didn't discuss it with your business partner. You didn't get your business partner's input. You just decided you know the right thing to do because it affects you better than it affects the other person. That's called ego. I think psychologically speaking, they call it the id. I don't know. But biblically speaking, it's the Yetzer Hara. It is the side of you that makes bad decisions. Do you think your opinion and what you think and what you feel is more important than anybody else? Some of us kind of hide it a little bit. Oh, yes, no, yeah, whatever. And you know what I'm talking about. But when you take your own opinion, like, oh, man, all this conspiracy stuff and everybody with the conspiracy. What do you think? The whole world's in some big conspiracy to get you? Well, some people think that, but they usually lock those kind of people up eventually. Look, Hitler said something very interesting. We don't need the Jews. They're the conscience of the world, and we don't need them. In one of his big public speeches, he told the world, we don't need to have a conscience. We just have to do what's right because I say it's right. Remember, just because you think something, just because you disagree with somebody doesn't make the other person wrong, and it doesn't make you right. You have to look at things from both sides. Sometimes you make decisions, and sometimes you let the other person make their own decision and let them go about their business because they're not going to listen to a word you say. Sometimes it happens to teenagers a lot. We just got to let them work through it. But we all keep it our whole lives. We all have our opinions. And they can change from day to day. How many times do you see posted around election time in any country, opinion polls? Today, this one's ahead. Tomorrow, this one's ahead. Tomorrow, somebody else is ahead and somebody else fell off the side of the shelf. Opinions don't mean anything. This COVID, to me, now, I'm going to give you my opinion. It really doesn't mean much. You just got to think about it. To me, it represents symbolically like the flood. It's not killing everybody, but everybody's getting it, and everybody's going to get it, and everybody's going to suffer a little with it somehow or another. Whether you get it and you get through it okay, which is what should happen, Bezrat Hashem, with the help of God, or you have a more serious case. And you get through it. You're going to get through it. This is, if during the time of the Black Plague, during the time of the Spanish influenza, and there's been others, if science had been at the level it is today, we'd have had the vaccinations a lot quicker. Also for tuberculosis, also for polio. If technology was the way it is today, and what was the one thing that Trump did, which was a big plus in developing the vaccine? He took a lot of red tape away. Oh, wait a minute. We gave it to 100,000 people and somebody had stomach cramps, so we can't do it. Let's try it again. And meanwhile, all the people that need it don't get it. There are cures in laboratories around the world that will help people with all different kinds of diseases they have today. And people have to get on their hands and knees and beg to be included in programs for testing and for stuff. And, it's going to take 5 years. It's going to take 10 years before we can use it with the public. Bureaucracy, red tape. When they wait 5 years to put a vaccine through, in that 5 years, a lot of people are going to die from the problem before they get the vaccine and before it's approved. Well, people are going to die anyway. Might as well give them the vaccine, right? The same people are not going to make it through. Sounds stupid? Maybe it is. That's just my opinion. And I'm running for elections. It doesn't mean anything. So whether you agree or disagree, that's up to you. But I think that this compares to a time of the flood. I think God's trying to wake us up. Tell us, get down off of these high horses we're on, walk side by side, and get into being kind to one another. That's the number one thing. Being kind to one another and doing it because God said to do it. No other reason. So, okay, I'm just seeing the end of this. Gloria said, in short, for many, it is not so much a vaccine, but the potential for being forced to take one that is still experimental. Even when they're approved by the FDA, they're still experimental. How many drugs were taken off the market? You remember one called thalidomide? Oh, that was a good drug. It was given to women. Women took it when they were pregnant. What happened? So they're all experimental. Every drug you put in your mouth is an experiment. Statins for high blood pressure, for cholesterol. People that take statins and they're all approved by the FDA. The amount of side effects from statins. I took them for 7 or 8 years to lower my cholesterol. One morning I tried to get out of bed and my muscles were mush. I couldn't get out of bed. I could barely lift my arms. I thought I was getting the flu. I didn't know what was going on. I just felt so bad. And the first thing I did was stop taking all pills that I took. I was taking pills for heart and for this and for that and the other thing, and statins was one of them. And I called and talked to my doctor. I let it go for 2 or 3 days, and then I started feeling a little better, and my muscles got stronger and all this. And I talked to my doctor about it, and he said, well, what drugs are you taking? And I said, da-da-da-da-da. He says, well, you know what? Since you stopped taking them almost a week ago, just start taking them one at a time again until you hit the one that caused you to do that. Now, come on. I was taking microprin, which is baby aspirin for your heart, for your blood. I was taking the different drugs for my heart. and I was taking this statin, and I was taking one other thing. I forget what it was for. As soon as I started taking the statin again, in 2 days, I had the same experience. My body became over time allergic to the statin. And I haven't taken it since then. And it's written on a medical record that I have a reaction to statins. And every time a new statin drug comes out, my doctor says, come on, let's try this one. And let's try that one. Nah, I did it one time. That's enough. But the funny thing is, my cholesterol stayed pretty much under control ever since then. I don't know why. He doesn't know why. Nobody knows why. But just because somebody gets an FDA approval doesn't mean that their drug is still not experimental. Of course it is. It's always experimental. So we just got to go along with that. You know, everybody takes pills. Everybody takes aspirin was so good for you until they found out it's not good for you. Ibuprofen was so good for you until they tell you, okay, it's not so good for you. You know, it's just, so what? We're all being experimented on every time we put a pill in our mouth. Every time. Everybody, is Tums still on the market in the USA? I remember when I was 14, 15 years old, my father's business partner, they hospitalized him because of the Tums. He became addicted to Tums. So you see, anything can happen with anything. When I was growing up, I guess I was 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old, we had a cough medicine in the house that really tasted good. And I knew that if I was sick or not, when I drank that cough medicine, I felt better. No alcohol in it. You know what was in it? Codeine. Over the counter. And I started drinking it every night. Get up and go drink a half a bottle of codeine or the medicine with codeine. And I was really feeling good. Helped me sleep, all kinds of stuff. But they took it off the market. Coca-Cola started out with codeine in it. Until they made it an illegal thing to put in. But the point is, everything we put in our mouths is experimental. Learning a great deal about the placebo effect. Yes. Isn't it amazing, the placebo effect? For those of you who don't know, when they run tests on drugs, they give one group the medicine. They give another group what they call a placebo medicine, which means it's really not medicine. It's nothing. And they want to see what happens between the two different groups, how many people catch it, how many people don't catch it, how many people get healed, how many people don't get healed. And some of the results are absolutely unbelievable. Because lots of times they're finding out people who are taking the placebo heal. A lot of work on the mind when that comes in. You might want to read about it. The power of someone's thinking. But we know the power of thinking is a great power. We know that if we think negative, everything around us is always going to be negative. We know if we think positive, everything around us is always going to be positive. When we look at people, if we look at them critically, everybody critically, we're going to find a problem with everybody we look at. But if we look at everybody and say, oh, that person threw a piece of paper on the ground, he's stupid. But if you look at him and say, oh, there's a good in that person. And I use a piece of paper on the ground rather than throw a rock or something like that. That there's good in every single born human being. I don't care how bloodthirsty they appear. I don't care how bad they appear. There's always good in everybody. And if you always look at people for the bad, that's what you're going to find. If you always look at people for the good, that's what you're going to find. Now, let's look at COVID-19 that way. We've been hearing for over a year, all the bad. Is anything good coming out of it? 50 years from now, they're going to say, oh, this medical advancement happened and this happened, and people got to know each other better in their homes. Sure, there's going to be suicides. There's going to be depressions. There's going to be divorces. There's going to be things that happen. But only because people look at it from the negative side. They don't look at it from the positive side. If you look at it from a positive side, okay, let's see, I'm home with my kids another week. Can't send them to school. Let's find something that we can do together with them. Let's make fun out of learning. Let's take a subject and investigate it together. Let's do a little science project in the kitchen. I've stained a few sinks that way. We just got to look at the positive of everything. And no matter how bad we feel about a situation happening, we have to know that there's good there at the end. It just we haven't seen it yet. Because the good hasn't been revealed to us by God yet from the situation. So also from the COVID-19, there will be good. It's going to change the world. It's already changing the world in shopping habits. It's already changing the world in many different big and little areas. I can't think of them all right now. I had thought of them earlier today. Let's think about it. But Zechia, hello. You got into you're able to type in the YouTube. I wonder why I can't. Okay. Good to see you. Folks, listen up. When you wake up tomorrow morning, Scotty can. Oh, it can now, huh? Okay. I guess YouTube fixed it. How about that? When you wake up tomorrow morning, yes, okay. There we go. We can do it. YouTube, if you want to comment on YouTube, you can do it now. Decide tomorrow you're going to have a good day. Decide tomorrow it's going to be a good day and everything that happens is going to be good, no matter what it is. Spill coffee on your shirt, that's good. Flat tire on the way to work, that's good. Well, a lot of people aren't going to work nowadays. Just think of it as it's a good day. Everything's going to be good. And watch what happens. But when you think things are going to be bad, boy, they're going to be bad. You are creating your reality around you. If you want to criticize everything that's going on around you, everything's going to be criticized and bad and everything needs to be improved. But if you look at your surroundings and say everything's all good, then they're just going to get better. Our thoughts and our mouths are potent tools, even when it comes to dealing with COVID-19. Hello, Imam. Good to see you. From West Java, Indonesia. That's where Tovia Singer used to be, Rabbi Tovia, huh? It is so important for us to remember this so we don't fall down into the rabbit hole of, it's terrible, I'm drowning down here. Okay. Guess I've gotten a little preachy tonight. But look, remember to smile. Gosh, remember to smile. We get up in the morning, the first room you head for when you get out of bed is where? Everybody knows where it is. Everybody's got a mirror in that room. I don't care how your hair is. I don't care what you look like. Look at yourself and smile at yourself. It's going to be a good day. Do not frown at yourself. Look at how other people are going to see that smile or that frown. Okay. Anybody have anything they want to add in or make comments on or have questions about right now? Okay. No hands up. Nobody's opened their mic. I want to go into one other topic. I'm not going to go into it for very long, but it needs talking about. There are people out there that are learning and they come and say, oh man, if someone's not Jewish does this, we get the death penalty for it. If somebody does this, they get the death penalty. This one is the death of stoning. This one, and they say there's a difference when a Jew does it and a Goy does it, a person who's non-Jewish. And I should say it makes a difference. It makes a difference to people that are not connected to God of Israel. Those are Goyim. If you're connected to God of Israel, you're not a Goy in that word, in that reference. You're righteous of the nations. So now, when you read this, people forget that every country in the world has death penalties associated with crime and with error. Remember this. And it's so important to remember this because not everybody gets the death penalty. You go in front of judges, there's a trial, it's just not automatic. I mean, hey, what did they hang people out in the Wild West for? Automatic. What did they hang people for? Stealing somebody's horse. Well, they don't do that anymore. Today, if you steal a horse, you go to trial. They don't care why you stole the horse. And I can understand why they would get angry like that, but you might leave somebody stranded somewhere, whatever it is, I don't know. But it isn't like that. God is not Judge Roy Bean. You don't know who he is? Google him. They used to call him the hanging judge. Very good. Yes. Anybody? Hello, Dan. Good to see you. Anybody here? Make sure next week and then the week after, Terry and Scotty are going to be here. They're going to be taking my place, and they are certified and they've been taught and they teach along what they were taught, and they don't teach their opinion. They teach what they're supposed to teach. They're part of the chain from Mount Sinai. And this is what needs to be done. I know it's good. There are people out there running programs that says from the Noahide point of view things. But you see, there is no Jewish point of view. There is no Noahide point of view. There's God's point of view. And the only way to have God's point of view is get it through the chain. You hear Terry all the time quoting different rabbis. You get it through the chain. It's not anybody's point of view. It's what God wants us to know. There is no, there's a phrase that people have been using for the last 100, maybe 150 years called Judeo-Christian. Everybody thinks that's a big deal, Judeo-Christian. Some news guy in a newspaper, I think it was the New York Post, back in the late 1800s said, we live in a Judeo-Christian society, and his meaning had nothing to do with what people use it for today. There's no such thing as Judeo-Christian. There's Christian, and there's Judaism, and there's also being a follower of the God of Israel. In the follower of the God of Israel, you have the nation of Israel, which is a people, and you have all the rest of the nations. And God appointed Israel to teach the rest of the nations God's point of view, not Israel's point of view. And so that's what we do. And when you do that, and you can do it, maybe you explain it in different words, but you don't explain what's going on differently. That's what's important. Hello, John Riggs from North Carolina. You don't change what God says, you explain it maybe a little clearer. Like in the Spiritual Odyssey, Terry uses a leaf as an example of how to look at the Torah. It's pretty cool. And go to the Spiritual Odyssey on YouTube, and it makes it very clear. But now I've never heard it explained like that before. You see. Now Terry isn't giving his opinion here. Hello, Nina. Good to see you. Terry's not giving his opinion. He's just explaining God's way, using a different way to see it, but the same exact truth is coming out of it. That's what we call a chidush, something new. When you haven't heard, using leaf as an example, and then you hear something like what Terry explains, and go to Spiritual Odyssey YouTube, Scotty and Terry, and you'll the last episode, and you'll see what he's doing. I'm not going to do it right here and right now. Maybe he'll do it for you next week. This is good. You see it through a fresh eye. You see it through something a little different, but you don't change what you're seeing. It's still the same leaf, but it shows you a way to look at it in a better way. Cherry didn't say all of a sudden, this is not a leaf. He didn't all of a sudden change something. The truth is the truth is the truth. You can't change it. And this is exactly what's called a chidush, something new we learn. Why? Because somebody explains it, so all of a sudden it clicks in our head. But the thing being explained was not changed in any way, shape, or form. So, when you read all the penalties that God puts on people for different things, understand it's the most severe penalty you can get, but you have to go in front of a court and they give you the penalty. And they very rarely give a death sentence, although God gives the death sentences out. And I think I talked about that Sunday night, but very quickly, what does it mean? When we read the incident of the spies, we're going to learn something. Because of what happened with 10 of the spies, the Jewish men between 20 and 60 were given a death penalty. God said nobody was going to enter Israel that was part of that group of warriors that left Egypt. So he said every year, everybody gets to 60 is going to die, the men. So he executed it. We didn't. We didn't have to do anything. The guys actually went out and dug their own graves, laid down, and that was it. God takes care of the death penalty, so don't worry about it. Nobody's going to pick you up and hang you or chop your head off or anything else. So, okay, is that the Sacred Odyssey videocast? Episode 7, Unpacking Genesis, episode 2. There you go. Go look at that. And Terry will probably do it next week. Leaf thing. It only takes a few minutes, but it's really insightful. All right. If we got nothing else to do, I'm ready to go roll out of here. And I'll see you guys in about 3 weeks on Sunday. But I'll post up something. And you, Scotty and Terry are going to take care of you. It's going to be great, I'm sure. And if anybody needs me, by the way, I'm still going to do the personal meetings I do with people. And if anybody has any questions or still needs me, get a hold of me. If you want to set up a private meeting, get a hold of me. I'm not gone. I'm just taking a break from getting up at 2 and 3 in the morning. Hello, Lori. Good to see you. And we're just going off the air, unfortunately. Guys, I bless you all with good health and parnasa, earning a living, and everybody stay healthy. And remember, you can still get a hold of me. I'm not closing myself off. Those two programs, one night I get up at 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning. The other one today, I got up at 1 in the morning here. It's 4 now. I'm going back to bed. So, we got a quick question here. If we don't keep the Shabbat holy commandment, but followed something different, when we then be also breaking the commandments under it? Well, if you are following some religious type ceremony or something, yeah, that's creating a new religion. You're allowed to remember the Shabbat, not keep the Shabbat like a Jew does. And I'm assuming you're not Jewish since you're asking this question in the Noahide group. Yeah, you'd be breaking a commandment if you did it. Now, okay. Just don't do anything if you don't want to. Just remember, oh yeah, it's Saturday, it's Shabbat. If it's Friday night, you want to light some candles, do it. But you don't have to, don't worry about anything else. And whatever you do, don't wear a kippah. You feel like you got to wear a hat, wear a baseball cap. But don't try to imitate what the Jews do. That's creating a new thing. The Jewish mysticism also apply to Jews like the Kabbalah, the beard hair, or the peyotes. Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of stuff in there. But you have to learn about this stuff before you start asking questions about it. Honestly, you have to learn, and see what it's about. Okay, I have a beard and I have peyote behind my ears, but there are many people that don't have like I do. B'nai Noach don't have to do any of that. No, they're not committed to do any of that. Yeah, something I forgot. Look, and I think it was posted in B'nai Noach Connection with Israel. Scotty and Terry, there's a Noahide, what do they call it? Noahide online community, NOG.
Talking about the retreat coming up.
Yeah, say something about that.
There's a retreat. My voice sounds weird. Had to flip my board up earlier. My batteries went dead. I think I moved something. There's a retreat that's going to be held in July in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, up near Scotty. Scotty, how's the best way for them to find out the information on that?
The best way is to go to Noahide Online Community, not the Noahide Online Gathering. Or you could message Terry and I guess I've just volunteered Terry for that, and we will send you the information. And that way you can reserve your cabin or spot. And I'm looking forward to it.
Well,
It's going to be a fun time for kids.
Yeah, it's going to have a little kids camp, Noahide kids camp thing going on. A lady, Shara, down in Florida, is the one that's putting this together. It's going to be at the, is it the KOA there in Pigeon Forge? Or is it just a campground?
It's a campground, and then they're going to be going to the KOA, but it's a right. Campground there.
Yeah, and you don't have to stay at the campground. Shara was asked the other day, and she's confirmed it. And I know some that's getting their own hotel rooms outside. It's going to be July 19th through 23rd when we're doing it. And we're just it's going to be a get together. If some of the people I know is wanting to come. One lady's all the way over in Washington State is going to try to be here. So we're going to meet Noah Hides from different walks.
Okay, we got in B'nai Noach Connection with Israel. It's posted there. Shar put it up there. So just go there, click on the link, and get all the information. Okay. Anything else? Anybody wants to ask questions on or anything? Don't see anything. Some of the people are joining us a little late. Ebenezer got here a little late. Some other people, but that's okay. Okay, Terry and Scotty, we're going to leave this in your capable hands for the next 2 weeks. And everybody be here. It's at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock. Those of you that are coming in now at 9 or 9:15. So don't know if it'll last that long. Yes or no. I want to thank you all for being here. God bless you all. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And we're going to end our broadcast right now.